Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into one of the most tense military standoffs in recent memory. It's all centered on a tiny strip of water that has massive global consequences. Let's get into it. So, just to set the stage, 20%, a full fifth of the entire world's daily oil supply, has to pass through this one spot, the Strait of Hormuz. It's the planet's single most critical choke point for energy. And right now, as of February 18th, 2026, it's become the setting for a high-stakes military showdown involving some of the world's biggest powers. So let's break down who's on the board and what kind of firepower they're bringing to the table. First up, on one side of this standoff, we have what's being called a new Eastern Axis. We're talking about Iran, Russia, and China. They've kicked off major joint naval exercises, codenamed Maritime Security Belt 2026, right in the middle of this incredibly volatile region. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because the timing here is absolutely critical. This is not just some routine drill. It's all happening while Iran is dealing with internal protests, right after its own Revolutionary Guard was doing live-fire drills, and, maybe most importantly, while incredibly delicate nuclear talks in Geneva are basically hanging by a thread. This exercise isn't just about practice. It's a huge piece of geopolitical signaling. So what are they working with? Well, Iran, playing on its home turf, brings that deep local knowledge, frigates armed with anti-ship missiles, and of course, its signature tactic, swarms of small, high-speed boats. But Russia is raising the stakes in a big way. They've brought in advanced, stealthy warships like this Starogushki-class corvette. And look at this, it's armed with Caliber cruise missiles that have a mind-blowing 1,500-mile range. Oh, and they threw in a helicopter carrier for good measure? And you can't forget about China. They're contributing their own advanced warships, which bring powerful, long-range air defense systems to the party. Think of it like a protective bubble over the whole fleet. But here's the real kicker, the thing that changes the game. Our sources point out that these three nations are all at the very forefront of drone warfare. The thought of them combining and integrating their drone tech, well, that creates an incredibly formidable and very modern new threat. Okay, so that's one side of the chessboard. How has the other side responded? Well, the United States and its allies have assembled what's being called a massive armada. We're talking a truly staggering concentration of military power, all designed for one thing: overwhelming deterrence. Just look at the air power alone. It's immense. The US and the UK have moved over 150 advanced combat jets into bases all around the region: Jordan, Qatar, the UAE, Cyprus. And these aren't just any planes. We're talking about the most capable fighters in the world, from the F-35 stealth jets to the F-22 Raptors, which are built for total air superiority. It's a web of air dominance. At sea, the power is even more concentrated. You've got the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group already on station, and it's reportedly being joined by the USS Ford, the most advanced aircraft carrier on the planet. That's 2 floating air bases, each with its own fleet of destroyers for protection. And that's just what you can see on the surface. What you can't see is maybe even scarier. Lurking under the waves are submarines like the USS Georgia, a single boat carrying 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles. You know, it's easy to focus on the flashy hardware, the jets, the carriers, but none of that works without this massive support network behind it. We're talking dozens of flying gas stations, aerial tankers, to keep planes in the air 24/7, advanced spy planes soaking up intelligence, and flying command posts like the E-3 AWACS to coordinate the whole symphony. This is the logistical backbone that makes that overwhelming force possible. So we've seen all the pieces on the board, a ton of hardware. But the big question is, why? Why is all this firepower being deployed right here, right now? This isn't just about military maneuvers. It's a multi-dimensional chess match with unbelievably high stakes. Let's dig into the strategy. For the Eastern Axis, the main goal is deterrence. It's about sending a clear message to the West: you can't push us around. Tactically, they're learning to fight together, and critically, they're buying time for Iran's military and nuclear programs. Now, on the flip side, the Western alliance. Their goal is also deterrence, but it's overwhelming deterrence. The idea is to project so much power it forces everyone to take a step back. Their aims? Keep the Strait of Hormuz open for business and give their diplomats as much leverage as possible. And you see the risk for both sides is exactly the same. A miscalculation could trigger a war that nobody actually wants. So, if things did go sideways, what's the reported US playbook? Well, it's all about using technology and distance. It wouldn't start with bombs, it would start with electrons. Step 1, use specialized jets, the EA-18G Growlers, to jam and blind enemy radar and communications. Step 2, send in the stealthy submarines to take out high-value targets without anyone seeing them coming. Step 3, launch long-range missiles from hundreds of miles away, well out of harm's reach. And only then, as a final step, would the stealth fighters move in to clean up whatever's left. But there's always a but, isn't there? There is one major tactical wildcard that could throw that whole playbook into chaos, and that's the drone swarm. The idea of Iran, Russia, and China launching a massive, coordinated attack with hundreds, maybe even thousands of drones all at once, that presents a unique and incredibly difficult problem for any modern navy to solve. So how in the world do you stop a swarm? The answer isn't one thing. It's a defense in layers. Far out, you'd have those growler jets trying to jam the drone control signals to make the whole swarm go dumb. A little closer, helicopter gunships would try to pick them off. For anything that gets through that, ships have something called a CIWS, a close-in weapon system. It's basically a crazy fast Gatling gun that acts as a last line of defense. And on the horizon, the real game changer could be directed energy. We're talking lasers that could potentially zap huge numbers of drones almost instantly. So, when you pull all of this together, the drone swarms, the stealth fighters, the submarines, the shaky diplomacy, what do you get? You get an incredibly volatile standoff. Military posturing is at a fever pitch. The entire region, and by extension the world's economy, is really on a knife's edge. There's a quote from the source material that just absolutely nails the central dilemma here. All of this military muscle, all these ships and planes, they're all there to prevent a war. They're meant to send a message to the other side saying, don't even think about it. But it's a total paradox. By packing one of the world's most volatile areas with this much firepower, you also raise the odds that one little accident, one miscalculation, could spark a conflict that turns ugly very, very quickly. And that leaves us with a final, absolutely critical question. In a standoff this massive, with this much advanced technology, and this little room for error, does putting overwhelming force on both sides actually guarantee stability? Or does it just make a catastrophic miscalculation inevitable? That's the question leaders in Washington, Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing are wrestling with right now. And the answer is something that's going to affect us all.